Hey buddies, Miss Puggy here, coming at you with another Borderlands 3 video. Today I actually wanted to show you the full potential of the Hustler class mod from Zane. Zane recently got a new class mod in DLC 4 that has been underperforming for the most part, but I think I found the true potential of the class mod. The Hustler build that I have in mind actually allows us to cryo everything, which allows us to deal crazy amounts of melee damage. Now to get this to work, you want a Hustler class mod with 5 brain freezes. Now what brain freeze does is every single time critical hits someone, it slows them, and if you stack that enough, it actually makes them cryo, which allows us to deal a lot more damage with our melee, which leads us into our next weapon, another main part of this build, the face puncher. The face puncher you can see on the screen right now. We have the 14 pellet face puncher, and we have action skills active, weapon damage increased by 2 times. Now the strat with this build is that you want to summon Zane's clone with the Monarch. Now what the Monarch does really well is allows us to shoot tons and tons of bullets, and the Zane clone actually has a really good time at hitting a bunch of criticals this way. And the more criticals we hit, the faster they get cryoed, which prompts us to go into the face puncher, which allows us to deal 3 times damage when the enemy is cryoed. While we're talking, there'll be some footage in the background as I can show you the damage. You'll see on the screen there's tons of enemies around, but they keep getting cryoed, and if you ever did want to yourself, you could pull a Monarch yourself and just freeze at every enemy around you. We actually got to test it on Guardian Takedown, and I found it to be really funny that these Guardians actually kept spawning above a pit, and I just used the Monarch to instantly freeze them, and they fell to their doom every single time. Here's the Monarch we use. The other items that we use for this build is the white elephant of any kind. You can use any kind you want, but the best for this build, probably for survivability's sake, is the knife drain, because it allows you to just keep capping off your health. Now since we're dealing millions of damage with our melee damage with the face puncher, we actually keep getting all our health back instantly, so it's very easy to stay alive with this build. I also have the Firestone White Elephant because a lot of the enemies in this game take a ton of damage from incendiaries, so we like to use that if we were looking to kill bosses really quickly. But for the most part, we keep Knife Drain for survivability. We use a low level ward here with any anointment you want really, but personally I like to use Digiclone as active, regenerate 3 times health. The ward allows us to do 3 times melee damage on top of our cryo, so that's a 6 times multiplier on melee damage when enemies are cryoed, and we have our shields depleted, so it allows us to deal millions of damage very easily. Crazy amounts of damage, allows us to kill anything we want really easily. As you guys can see on the screen, we actually kill Grave Ward in a couple of shots real quick here. That's because of how crazy the White Elephant scales with our melee damage. So I actually made sure our shields was depleted before we hit the Grave Ward to deal tons and tons of damage. Now we also have the Fish Slap with the grenade throw, boosts all damage by 25%. The reason why we're using Fish Slap is because it deals melee damage, as everyone knows, and it actually is a really good grenade that just heals us for, every damage we deal. It's forward our shields. We like to have it depleted, but it still helps to have that little boost every once in a while. It does surprisingly a large amount of damage when you're not expecting it. And a lot of our damage comes from Groundbreaker, and what you guys probably already know, what Groundbreaker does, it adds all the damage you dealt over the last 5 seconds and applies that to your melee damage at a 25% reduction. So it does crazy amounts of melee damage as your clone is constantly spraying and your drone is constantly going through the battlefield and killing everything. For those of you who don't know, the way you get the Hustler is actually from the new DLC boss, the Locomotus. It's the giant train that, flies around. 3rd boss in the DLC. It's not too difficult, so it's easy to farm. So you just keep farming that till you get a Hustler with 5 brain freeze. It takes a while to get that because it's kind of a god roll. But, if you keep persisting, you'll get it eventually. Now, another big help to allow this build deal large amounts of damage and allows us to freeze easier is the Galaxy Brain modifier. Your Mayhem mode modifiers don't really matter except for Galaxy Brain. You want to have Galaxy Brain because the bigger the head size, the more crits we can get, and the Zane clone does a better job at freezing people if he can actually hit the crits, besides the Hustler crits that we get. Makes Zane's clone's job a lot easier to freeze people once we have the Galaxy Brain modifier on. So as you see here, I'm actually fighting some enemies. Everybody's just getting frozen very easily. And keep in mind that what you want to do is summon Zane's clone with the Monarch in hand and then switch over to your face puncher, and then you just go ham on anything that Zane's clone freezes. Now if you really want, I actually don't recommend this, but you can actually spawn Zane's clone with the face puncher itself and then use freeze enemies with the Monarch. The reason why I don't like doing that is because Zane's clone won't necessarily go for every single enemy you target, so if you freeze the enemy and you expect Zane's clone to hit it with the face puncher, you're not necessarily going to get so lucky and get those hits on. As you see here, what I like to do is actually go on top of this little cart right here and summon this clone, because it allows Zane to basically take full advantage of all of his surroundings, because Zane's clone only targets enemies that are like, you know, like medium range and proximity away from him. So if like the enemy is too far away, he won't actually target them. So I like to put him near the middle on a higher post, because it allows him to actually shoot the enemies, basically gives him the high ground so he actually hits the enemies. Oftentimes I'll pull out the Monarch myself and actually start spraying people so I can freeze them, because sometimes like with the spider ants it's a little bit harder for the clone to hit the critical spots, so I just freeze them myself and then go into a face puncher. Now keep in mind, during this footage of the Christina Slaughter, I actually accidentally had the Groundbreaker disabled. I have no idea why I had it disabled, but I actually had it disabled, so all the damage I'm dealing here is a little bit less than preferable, but we're still dealing millions of damage and killing everything. The Dominator right here, we actually kill him in a couple shots. We first freeze him ourselves with the Monarch, and then we switch over to our face puncher and kill him in 2 shots like that. I'm pretty sure we had the fish slap also hit him midway through, because his health bar immediately went half health, and I'm not sure what really caused that. Nevertheless, we killed him very, very easily. Here's the Tremendous Rex. And what we do as well is pull out our own Monarch and start freezing him, and then switch over to the face puncher and just kill him instantly. It's pretty cool because that's actually the boss of the Christina Slaughter, and we just killed him in like 4 shots with the face puncher, and the white elephant explosions did the rest. And I actually did a little photo mode real quick here just to show you how much damage we dealt near the end. We did a lot more damage in between because, you know, obviously his health is not like 14 million, it's a lot more than that. But here's how much damage we're dealing without Groundbreaker. Keep that in mind. If we had Groundbreaker there, we would have dealt all of its health in probably like 2 shots or 1 shot. And the build we're using isn't too special. It's a pretty basic clone and drone build. Primarily have like, you know, all the action skill, all the kill skills. The only thing different is that I personally switch Zane's clone ability from that, I'm not sure how to pronounce. It's a huge German word, but I'm going to try my best. It's like Stradenfried. It basically, you know, restores our shields every single time the clone takes damage, but we don't really want that since we're running the ward. So I actually took that off and used the double banger, even though it's not that amazing of a skill, and that allows us to keep ward up 100% without regenerating our shields, and we just deal tons and tons of damage. We're freezing people. We have prefixes that increases our melee damage. We have melee blade on the face puncher. We actually, I believe, when an enemy is frozen, a total melee bonus of 766% without mayhem points. Now, unfortunately, the only thing that lacks in this build is the bossing. So bossing doesn't do that much amazing damage. Most of the damage lies within our mobbing. We deal crazy amounts of mobbing because, you know, we can freeze them. You can freeze bosses, but not like necessarily. You can apply the freezing debuff to actually deal the more melee damage, but you can actually freeze them solid, and that's what our build does best because we have 5 points in brain freeze. And because we have 5 points in brain freeze, that increases our total brain freeze chance from 20% to 40%. So we actually freeze enemies in about 3 critical hits very, very easily with the Monarch when we're spraying a ton of bullets. For those of you wondering, I'll put the save file down below for anybody who wants to try this. I highly recommend it. It does crazy amounts of damage, millions of damage, as I said before and repeatedly said, and it's just really, really fun to just freeze everybody really, really easily. If you guys want to see what my other builds have, I actually did a Peregrine plus Lightspeed flak build up above. I'll link it up there. It does crazy amounts of damage. Just 1 rack attack, we killed Captain Trump immediately, Mayhem 10, and I actually cleared the entire Guardian takedown with only rack attack and grenades because of how crazy this build is. So if you guys want to see that, click up there. But otherwise, I hope you guys like, comment, and subscribe, and don't forget to have a great day.
And the last shall be first to immerse in a pass out heat, facing him up with a moxie melt till he woke up drowning in tchotchke hell. War in a cave with a torch on a wall, then a window arrangement of porcelain dolls.